No, there's background noise.
We may
Can
start,
someone
Monica.
mute? Can everybody mute their microphones while you speak? Then that will sort it out.
We may
Yeah,
start,
but there is background noise because there's another Zoom meeting going on at the other end of the room.
we may start, Monica.
Okay. No, I think it's up to the chairman to start.
Yes, thank you very much, Winston. And I think we will allow people to join us as we get along. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you to the call for Indigenous language authors to get involved in the debate about the Copyright Amendment Bill. We have the background of how it started and how far we have gone as ANFASA. And we felt that we should invite more authors on Indigenous languages. We've invited Sotho and Zulu authors, which I hope they are represented here in this discussion. And we are grateful to have you, and I hope this meeting is going to be fruitful and insightful. We rely on our guru, Monica Kruska Seeber.
No, Seeber. I'm still Seeber.
And also there is a subcommittee of ANFASA who deals with copyright issues. We welcome them. Sihle Kumalo is also here. And I happen to be one of the team, copyright team, but I think we shall now hand over to Monica to take us through this process. And then after that, we will have a discussion, and we will also have a question and answer for clarity. If there are issues that are not clear, then we will open up question and answer session. Without much further ado, let me hand over to Monica to take us through.
Thank you, Prof. Before I start, what I'm going to do is read this letter which went out, but not just read it, comment on it and add to it as I go along. So, I mean, these are the bare bones, so to speak, and I'll add to them. Before I actually start, I should say that ANFASA submitted a submission on our comments on the Copyright Amendment Bill, and we asked to be able to join in the public hearings, and we've our request has been granted, and we're due to give oral testimony next week on the 4th of August. I'll just come back. I'll come back to that at the end and speak about that for a few minutes. But I'm sorry that there aren't as many people in this meeting as we had hoped. We may have another meeting next week if that's possible, and try and pull in some more authors. Or I hope that those who are here today will take the opportunity of spreading the news themselves among their networks. It's very important for us to receive, to seek and to receive the opinion of authors to this Copyright Amendment Bill. You know, and FASA speaks for authors, but also we hope that authors are going to speak for themselves, because their voices are very important in this. My letter starts off by saying that you may have heard about the Copyright Amendment Bill, and I think that quite a lot of people in this meeting have heard about that bill. But what it does is it's going to amend or change the Copyright Act and copyright law in South Africa. And it could affect you, the individual author. It certainly is going to have an effect on authorship and book publishing and many other aspects of the creative sector. But I'm going to explain how it could affect you. And very simply, it's quite, copyright is quite a complex thing, but to put it as simply as I possibly could, I've said that the bill will make it legal for schools and universities to photocopy large sections of books when the purpose of the copying is for education. Now, the question is, can they copy the whole book? Yes, in terms of the law, they can. There are people in favor of this bill who say, oh, a school is never going to buy one copy and make 1,000 photocopies of that one copy. Well, it's unlikely, but the point is that in terms of the law, as it will be, they could do it legally, and some schools will, and universities will do it as well. So the negative effect on all of this copying for writing and publishing can go even further than this. It's more than just photocopying some books, because when fewer books are sold because they're being photocopied instead, the publishing industry is going to go into decline. And once that happens, authors will find it more difficult to get published. And the reason that one of the reasons that we're aiming this particular meeting at authors of works in the indigenous languages is that they have a more precarious and marginalized position than authors who write in English or in Afrikaans for that matter, because their market is so much smaller. The readership for books in indigenous language is small, and we aim to, and one of FASA's objectives and the publishing industry's objectives and the Department of Arts and Culture's objectives is to grow and to encourage the growth of the writing and publishing books in South Africa's indigenous languages, something very important to all of us. And works in indigenous languages are very rarely, not nearly often enough, available for sale in bookshops. Their main outlet is in schools, as readers in schools. All this copying is going to directly affect school books, because education departments will buy fewer books when they can legally make copies of them. We know that that is very likely to happen. When fewer books are bought, authors, of course, get lower royalties, but the effects go much further than that. The publishing industry will decline because its income or the money generated by the publishing industry is very largely due to sales of school books. In fact, it's estimated that approximately between 60 and 70% of the publishing industry's revenue is due to school books. And FASA is working to stimulate a vibrant publishing sector where authors of books in indigenous languages will have much better publishing opportunities. And of course, they'll earn higher royalties. So while on the one hand, we are trying to stimulate and encourage more writing in the indigenous languages, this copyright amendment bill will have a very deleterious and negative effect on what we're trying to stimulate. We and FASA, that is, fought hard against this copyright amendment bill. We've been fighting this battle for years now, and we do it on behalf of authors. But despite all our efforts, the bill was passed by Parliament and it was sent to the President to be signed into law. The president, this took a long time, but the president finally replied that he was concerned about the bill because he felt that certain of the clauses and the provisions in it might be unconstitutional. So he sent it back to Parliament to be further considered. And that's where it is now. It's being further considered. One of the president's reservations about the bill was that authors had not been sufficiently consulted on the effects of the bill on their livelihoods and on their careers and their writing and so on. And especially authors of Indigenous books in the Indigenous African languages were possibly going to suffer, as I've just said, pointed out to you. So what UNFASA is doing now is we're contacting as many authors as possible so that we can tell you more about it and carry your opinions back to Parliament and influence change. So we're holding this meeting this morning. It's actually the 26th July, not the 27th. And this was the invitation in which we hope that you would join us. We want to hear your opinion. Were you ever consulted about the change to copyright law? In terms of the way the making of laws is carried out, when a bill, which eventually becomes a law, when a bill is issued for public comment, the ministry or department, in this case, the Department of Trade and Industry that issues it, needs to consult the public about what it's all about, and to hold meetings. And a lot of meetings were held, and FASA went to a lot of them, publishers went to a lot of them. A lot of people were speaking about this, and a lot of people had a lot to say about it. But most of the people who were going to be affected, and that was individual authors, were never told about it, especially authors not living in urban centers, not necessarily being members of an association. And I think that this information never reached them. Well, not that I think, I know that this information never reached them. So that's why we're here today, to explain more and to, sorry, Samu, can you bring it back? Seems to have gone. I don't know why the screen has gone like this. Why we've got to Google. Samu? Hello? Thanks, Samu. So here we are learning more about the bill. I can't obviously tell you all the details about it because it's quite long, it's technical, it's difficult, but I'm here to answer questions, individual questions. But this meeting's not just about the bill. If you have questions to ask or issues you want to discuss about publishing itself, I feel that there's often quite a big gap between authors and publishers, and perhaps authors and publishers don't know each other well enough. So if you have those kinds of questions, we're also very happy to answer them. And I'm thinking that this could be the first of several meetings in which we gather authors together and start talking about what are the things that worry you, what are the obstacles and the difficulties that you come across in your work and your career as an author. So I'm going to hand over to whoever wants to talk and whoever wants to ask questions, and I'll be very glad to expand on this, to answer your questions, and I look forward to a conversation now.
Thank you very much, Monica. I think we will allow first 3 questions so that it allows you opportunity to respond to the first 3, and then we'll take a second round.
Chair, could you kindly allow me to say a few words?
Yes, please.
Yes. As a member of NFASA, as you can see there, my name is Winston Mohapi. I'm happy that this meeting has taken place because we had requested this meeting before. Personally, I had requested this meeting before, and I'm happy that it has materialized. Unfortunately, I realized that there are very few people, as Monica has said, that we expected. Although we and Professor, the chair, we extended the invitations to quite a number of the indigenous writers, language writers, but few have responded. I think one of the reasons why, it's now that I'm thinking, one of the reasons could be that people are at work. Next time, as Monica says, we could be having this meeting. Let's hold it on Saturday when everybody is not at work. Hopefully it may be successful. But be as it may, I think we have come to a very good decision that we should invite all the authors in indigenous languages, because most of the indigenous languages literature associations are no longer in existence. Because they were supported by the previous homeland governments, especially the education department. So for them to be on their own, it has become difficult because it requires each member to affiliate to the association, and that means that they must pay out of their pocket, unlike in the past when during the apartheid era, the members were being supported financially by the Homeland Department, as I've already said. But let us go forward. This is a good venture. We will make it through. We will make sure that everybody will get the information from this meeting. And let us try to be as simple as possible, because not all members, maybe I'm not looking down on them. Most of the members are not English speaking people, but Monica has really spoken well and used simple words in English. Thank you very much. I hope what I've contributed, Chair, is something tangible. Thank you.
Thank you, Winston. I'd just like to add to what you said, and thank you for those words. And there's been it has been in all our minds that authors are not organized. I put organized in inverted commas, which is not quite true. Authors are organized into NFASA, and as Winston has said that there were a number of associations of authors in indigenous languages, which seem to have broken up now, although they haven't all broken up. Some of them are still in existence. And there are a number throughout the countries of other small groups of authors, little, what should I say, discussion groups and so on. And then there's another large authors association, a new one called the National Writers Association of South Africa, called NWASA, which is a very different body to that of Anfasa. The simplest way I can put it is that in Nwasa, which has a lot of members, the authors talk about the literature, whereas in Anfasa, we talk about the authors. This association is to help authors to understand publishing contracts. There's a number of authors have had trouble with their publishing contracts, largely because they didn't understand them at the time they signed them. We, as we're doing now, we discuss and work with copyright issues. We run courses in skills development and so on. It's all about, as we say in our logo and slogan, it's all about empowering authors as individuals and building their careers in writing. So it's, as Winston has said, this is the first of discussions. You know, most of our members come from the urban areas, and we've tried to reach out to authors outside those areas, and we're making a start with that with this meeting. And I hope that it's going to be the first of many meetings in which we discuss things together. We talk about your problems. If you've got a problem with a publishing contract, for instance, we'll advise you as best we can, or we'll leave it open discussion. We'll invite publishers to come along, as Heta is here today, and we'll just talk about the publishing industry, which includes writing, of course, and how we can build a better, shall I say, rapport, sense of belonging together and working together to build this industry. We at the moment with the Department of Small Business Development are working on what it's called the Master Plan for Development in the creative industries, and FASA is a member of the publishing industry reference group, and it's all about building trade domestically and internationally, and stimulating growth in the publishing industry. So there's a lot of work to be done on that, and we'll be telling our members more about it. However, I'm going to stop talking now so that other people can ask questions. Hello.
Yes, you can also use chat or raise your hand if you have a question. And please introduce yourself.
It's Heta from UNISA Press. Can I quickly just say something and we make it into a question? Okay. I'm Heta Pieterse from UNISA Press. Let's put on the video as well. So my concern is, as a publisher, that I can't protect my author's copyrights. And then, you know, I wouldn't want that. So I would really hope we can stop this or stop the bill in its present form and come to a compromise or a realization. Because I think the initial intention of the CAB was to actually protect artists, and it seems that the performers bill has gone in a different direction. But somehow, isn't that realization of the author's right to earn an income from their work? It's just, you know, it's so hard. The debate is continuing, and even I saw within the ASAF body, there's a clear split of opinion. There's opposing viewpoints, and we all realize we are in a country where people need free content. But on the other hand, how can authors not earn an income from their work? So, you know, it's again, I'm asking an old question. How would you address, Monica, when you get to Parliament?
Well, I'd like to answer that question, Heather, because it's one that has been asked before. You said how now the talk is about how can those who are in favor of this bill say that we need free content. I want to say that nothing is ever free. It's not free. What is free to some people, it's free because it's paid for by other people. And yes, it's very true that there's not enough money to provide information at the level it needs to be provided. But we have to find a balance between the interests of the people who need information and the interests of the people who provide it, because information, like everything else, doesn't come free. And we, the authors and the publishers, need to make a living from their labor as much as the school teachers and the university lecturers need to make a living from the work that they do. So it simply cannot be free. So we have to think about what solutions we can reach to make it cheaper. And the solution is that that we can license, we can make copies under license of sections of books, and the money paid for that, and it's a very small amount per person, is eventually channeled back to the publishers and the authors whose rights, who have rights in the work that's been photocopied. But I'm not going to give you a long lecture on licensing now. I can send one out to the members, and actually that would be a very good idea. And thank you for your question, Hetta, because it's generated an idea in my mind that we will explain what licensing is to authors so that they can understand that they will receive something. And we're working also on public lending right, which will, if we can introduce public lending right in South Africa, that's it's another incentive scheme that will mean that authors get something back. But I just want to go back to what Hetta said about the way the bill, the original intentions of the bill were changed somewhere along the way. And it's true that there was originally an intention to improve conditions for creative workers of all kinds who, it was said, were dying in poverty. This claim came first from musicians, and I always say that I think more authors have died in poverty than musicians, but the idea was to improve conditions for authors. Somewhere along the way that got changed because is somebody talking? It was changed along the way. I see hands up. It was changed along the way by people in education who were demanding that it be free. As we said, nothing's free. Somebody has to pay for it. I'm going to stop because I see two hands up. Prof. Chairman, can you invite comments, please?
Yes, please. May I request that people mute themselves because we hear interruptions from. There is a gentleman, Mukuku, who's trying to connect to audio. Can you mute yourself so that the sound doesn't interfere with the discussion? I believe there are two hands. Can we start with the first one and then the...
Okay, thank you, Chair. My name is Sihle Kumalo. I'm an author as well. Just a brief one, Monica, you mentioned that the reason why the president sent the bill back to Parliament was because he had reservations, and one of those was obviously the lack of consultation. What were the other reservations that he had, so that could also be tackled as well, if you are at liberty to share with us?
Okay, Okay, thanks. The others don't concern us so much. One was that the bill had, well, it was a very important reservation, although it didn't need the attention of authors. The bill had been incorrectly tagged. It had been tagged as a 76 bill, which didn't require input from provincial authorities. No, it's the other way around. It's been tagged as 75 and it should have been 76. And it has now been re-tagged. And that's a very good thing because it means it's been open to the National Council of Provinces and the bill will be discussed there as well. So the bill's going to be under serious consideration. So that was one of them, the tagging. He was also concerned that the bill might be in contravention of South Africa's international obligations as regards copyright. In other words, the international treaties that regulate copyright all over the world, that there were certain provisions that might not comply with those treaties. And then there was the lack of consultation. That's 3 of them. Gosh, I'd have to remember all of them, but the one that affects us is the lack of consultation specifically over fair use. If I explained in detail what fair use is, you'd be here for another 7 hours. So I'm not going to. I'm just going to say that in order that the public can get access to certain parts of published works without having to actually buy the book, there has to be some leeway in what copying may take place. It's not that you're not allowed to copy a single word out of a book. You are allowed to copy for personal use. I'm talking about now, before as in the Copyright Act as it is. You are allowed to copy for personal use, for study and study purposes, and a few other reasons, for reporting news of the day and for classroom display in classroom and so on. This copyright amendment bill is aiming to extend the range of conditions and circumstances in which you may make a copy. Extended very, very broadly, more broadly than any Copyright Act practically in the world, more broadly even than in the United States. You can basically make a copy for almost any purpose. That's what we're particularly against. Sorry, I'm getting back to Sithla and the question you asked about the president's reservations. Yes, he was worried that we hadn't been consulted adequately on fair use. Hello. Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I noticed that we have another hand. Can we allow another hand to speak?
Thank you very much, Baba Ngubane, and hi to Baba Khumalo. My take is I can hear that there is a concern about scarcity of writers, and particularly those who write in African indigenous languages. But I think there is a contradiction that should not be overlooked, particularly in regard to the name of ANFASA as the organization, which emphasizes academic and non-fiction, and the greater number of the writers in question are writing literature for schools, obviously. But even if it's for schools, it is largely literature, and even if they write also academic work, at most they regard themselves as literature writers. With that in mind, I'm thinking that given that, as Monica elaborated, the concerns are not on the nitty-gritties. The concerns from the presidency are on consultation. And if that is the case, numbers do speak. So if ANFASA is representing writers, but not carrying majority of those writers, maybe this is a point where one can think of the possibility of stretching out and speaking to those other organizations, so that whatever stance that is taken is also sold to the entire landscape. And when it's time for the entire landscape to contribute, one can anticipate lesser disagreement. One speaker already mentioned that in other organizations there are conflicting views. So my way forward will be that whatever stance that is taken, perhaps ANFASA need to kiss some frogs and princes, and speak to other organizations. One has mentioned the likes of NWASA. It has a large number of followers who are writers. And if it means for this particular purpose, you sit down with them and come up with one voice, it will be beneficiary to the stance that is going to be sold in Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
David.
thank you very much. Yeah. Do you want to
May
comment?
may I, Prof. Chairman, may I comment?
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for that question, and it's a very important one. In fact, as a start, our name makes some people think that we only accept as members people who write works of non-fiction. That's not correct. We invite all authors to join us, not all authors, but most authors, those who write fiction as well as non-fiction, because a lot of authors do write both. And when we work on behalf of authors, we work on behalf of all authors. Some of our programs are specifically directed to authors who write non-fiction, but our membership is not restricted. And in this case, the case of the Copyright Amendment Bill, we have approached authors of all kinds. We've gone outside our membership and spoken to authors all over the country and to write in all the languages. But you're quite correct in that we should be speaking to other authors, and we will be speaking to other authors' organizations. But this has come up quite suddenly, and we need to gather opinion so that when we talk next week in the public hearings, we can talk about authors beyond those who are our members. And we did send a letter out to quite a lot of authors at the time we were preparing the submission we didn't speak to them, we wrote to them, and we have used their replies in our submission. And they're not NFASA members, they are authors that that our members have networks among other authors. So it's like spreading the information beyond NFASA as far as we can, and us accepting those voices and carrying them forward to the parliamentarians.
Correct, yeah. The fact of the matter is that we are reaching out to all authors in indigenous languages, regardless of their affiliation to ANFASA or not. And also we, as we have put it correctly, that it's not only non-fiction, but all authors. I hope you are satisfied with the response. But we still invite, if you have contacts of other organizations that we might not be aware of, you can bring them forward so that we can reach out to them as well. Because we also have our own website, and we believe that the website can reach out to people who are not members of ANFASA. But I will appreciate if we can have some more contacts so that we can reach out to them as well. But thank you very much for raising that. Do we have another comment or a question?
I see the hand
There's
is
a hand. There's a hand from Itumeleng.
Oh,
Hi,
okay.
yes,
Hi, go ahead, Itumeleng.
hi. Well, firstly, just thank you for this meeting. I'm an author, and I do have a small publishing company. So I have an interest from both sides. And interestingly, there's one book that we've just written with 13 other women that would like to get into schools. And when I saw this email, I thought to myself, oh goodness, you know, what a bad time to be trying to get something in the education system. So for me, whether there's many people here or not, this meeting was a shocker. And I also really appreciate if anything that we're going to say here today is going to make a difference. My understanding of what is being put forward is that if this kind of bill is passed, and I just want to be corrected, if this kind of bill is passed, there would be no need for purchasing more books. If this kind of bill is passed, one book would be sufficient to make copies in the education system. I just want that clarity. And if that's the case, I mean, that does not make any sense, even with regards to the NDP goals, which are trying to aspire towards economic growth of various sectors. You're killing one sector because that's literally what it is. It would be killing one sector. So even in terms of the National Development Plan, something like this to me just doesn't make sense. And as a result, I'm worried that I'm not understanding it. I just want clarity exactly. I want clarity as to what is the gist of this bill? Because right now, for me, this bill is contradicting the vision of South Africa. And interestingly, the book that I'm referring to is a multilingual book in all the various languages. So I am an Indigenous writer and an Indigenous publisher, and something like this for me is concerning. If someone can just give me clarity about exactly what is the gist of this book, if I'm misunderstanding it. Thank you.
Itumeleng, I'd like to answer you. Your book sounds fantastic. Go ahead, and I'm sure you will succeed in getting it into education departments. It's not going to happen overnight. It will take quite some time before this bill becomes law, if it ever becomes law. And we're hoping that it never will become law in its present form. But things take a long time. In the meantime, go ahead and submit it for education, and I'm sure you'll succeed. It's not quite correct that there will be no need for books. There will be a need for books, but the purchase of books, the numbers in which books are purchased, will be eroded. Fewer books will be bought. There's no doubt about that. But it's not going to happen suddenly that if this bill does come in its present form, it won't happen suddenly that there are no orders for books. Books will go ahead. But as I said, and I'm going to repeat it, things take time. The bill still has to go through the parliamentary process, and it still has to go to the NCOP, and then it has to become law, then it has to be implemented. All this takes a very long time, and we're going to stop that process in its tracks, I hope. And even if it did go through, it wouldn't instantly mean no books. Yes, it would mean a gradual decline of the publishing industry. But we're doing our very best, and FASA, on behalf of authors of all kinds, and the Publishers Association, and small independent publishers such as yourself, we are all going to oppose it with all the strength that we can gather. And I wish you a great success in your book, which sounds incredible, and you have to let us know where we can buy it, please.
Thank you. I'll drop a message. I'll drop a text. I'll drop an email to Anfansa, and you can share it with the people that you invited here today.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Chair?
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. Itumeleng, this was a good presentation and inquiry. I think what you should do, Itumeleng, also is we would be happy as Anfasa if you could join as a member for you to get more and better information about Anfasa. Will you? I hope
Yes.
you'll do
Yes,
that.
definitely.
Ke a leboga, ke a bonga. Any other comments?
I can just make one comment too. As a publisher, I will see to look at our lists and all our Indigenous authors, that I make sure that they all are linked up with Anfasa. You know, so I quickly, before this meeting this morning, I think I sent out about 20, 25 invites just quickly. But I can go back to each and every person that published an Indigenous language book with us and make sure they know about this aspect.
Thank you. That would be great. And I hope that other people who are in this meeting now will also take this information further. I'd like to include comments from authors about the bill. I hope that I have presented the bill fairly. I don't want you to think that suddenly everything's going to come to an end. But there is danger. It's a very threatening bill, and there is danger that it will severely affect writing and publishing. So it's very important to make our voices heard and make our opinions known. And perhaps if you are unwilling to speak at the moment, perhaps you could send us an email with your thoughts on such a decline of writing and publishing, if it were to happen. That would be very helpful. Prof. Chairman.
Thank you, Monica.
Oh, there's another question.
From David Masamela. Thank you very much for raising your hand. And can you go ahead with your comment, David?
All right, Ngiyabonga, Baba Ngubane. I think on what you just said, Monica, my take is it just need to be emphasized that both the writing and the publishing industries are already facing challenges as it is. The fact that the indigenous languages are only fighting for a slice of cake in the school prescription, and there is no leisure, variety, and even support. That is an argument on its own that we have an industry that is facing challenges as it is, and any other thing that will add to the current situation will worsen and perhaps even destroy the industry as it is. So I think it will carry more weight if we can put together the current state of things in terms of what are the real challenges that the writers are facing, that the publishing industry is facing. Obviously, the advent of even the digital exploration is adding to many other challenges. So this bill obviously, and I like the fact that you emphasize that it will not, it doesn't mean completely erasing what we have, but it will surely affect to the outcome, which is, as it is, already facing many challenges. So that is my input, but I will write something and submit to that effect.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Masamela. I think that will be useful because I think the point of the matter is that we are not rejecting the entire bill. It's only that clause, a fair use clause, that we are against as authors because it will threaten our income as authors. But you are welcome to write something and send it through. Thank you very much, Dr. For now, I don't see any hands being raised, but if there are comments or anyone who would like to say something, I can open up that session of discussion. Anything that can add value to our voice before the portfolio committee.
I just wonder what message are we sending out to the public in terms of, valuing the creative arts. So now, okay, if somebody made an artwork, you can go and photograph it and you make your own copy. So don't we then show respect and appreciation for, the creative arts? That's the way that we, it's a message that we then send out as a country. And as the one author has said, who has contributed, Itumeleng, it's very true that we're going to undermine our own industry. We don't want to do that. How do we want to? We want to build ourselves against, global publishers, not send our authors to rather go publish outside the country, those who can. But the indigenous authors will not be able to do that. So we should look at the future, not just at the immediate. But a compromise should be there that publishers shouldn't charge exorbitant fees. So I think the licensing idea is good, but we need to create a culture where people have respect for creative outputs. And just giving it away or allowing it to be copied is it's not the right message to send out, isn't it?
It's true, because we have to protect our intellectual property by all means. We can't allow people just to take an advantage of authors at this point. But Monica, do you want to add something on this point that Hector has raised?
I think, yes, in response to Hitler, you know, meetings like this, I didn't realize till this moment almost how important meetings like this are. Meetings between us where we can talk to issues, to concerns like, who was it? Was it Itumeleng who spoke about her book? We didn't know about the book till this moment, and it's kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities of strengthening our voice by talking to each other. And I think that this definitely should be the first of a number of meetings, which will grow to the point where let's hope that the COVID restrictions will be lesser. Then we can have a grand authors convention and come together and really be meaningful in the development of our industry. You know, it's often talked about, well, it is always talked about as the publishing industry. And I tend to call it the publishing and writing industry, because without the authors, there wouldn't be any publishing industry. So we're an integral, an important, a crucial, the central part of the publishing industry. That's us, the people who write. So yes, let's have more such meetings. It's been very interesting to hear you. And there was a question from somebody that said, can we send in our questions? Yes, please. Send your comments and your questions by email to us, and we'll do our best to answer them all.
More again, may I come in, Chair?
Yes, please go ahead.
I think the idea of a summit, as Monica calls it, a convention, it's good. Let's try to, as we have done already, and FASA has really done a good job by inviting all the indigenous writers. But I think what we should also do is to include also African authors, so that, and associations, so that we get a more global meaning in South African local ideas from all the authors coming from all languages in the countries. Remember, we have 11 official languages. Let's try to get all of them together. And FASA has really come up with something very good for the country and for the authors. Another point that I would have liked to raise is, Monica, I would like to know how can we come up with this idea of self-publishing, which is mushrooming left, right, and center in South Africa? What does the bill say about that? And is it conducive to have this type of practice of self-publishing for the industry, as you say, publishing and writing industry? What do you think about it in relation to the copyright amendment bill? Thank you.
The bill says nothing about self-publishing. The law doesn't regulate self-publishing. And FASA runs courses, workshops on self-publishing. Our attitude towards self-publishing is that we help through those workshops We help to provide the skills to enable authors to publish on their own. But just publishing one book and doing it yourself doesn't necessarily contribute to the growth of the publishing industry. The reason that I, and probably a lot of the people who are listening here, have such admiration and respect for Itumeleng is that not only did she put together the book and publish it herself, but she's actually created a small independent publishing company so that what she has done is sustainable. It will lead to further development. I hope, Itumeleng, if you're listening, that this won't be the one and only books that you'll publish, that you'll go on to, there'll be more books and you'll build something out of these small beginnings. So that's how we feel about self-publishing, that it has the possibility to develop into a sustainable part of the publishing industry.
Thank you very much. I see there is a question from Heta, citing a question from one of the writers asking if Afrikaans is an indigenous language. According to our constitution, we have only 9 indigenous languages in South Africa. And the reason being that Afrikaans, although it started here in South Africa as a kitchen language, a Gombe style, its origin is in Dutch. And these other 9 African indigenous languages, their origin is here in Africa. That is the only reason why Afrikaans was excluded as an indigenous language. But it is born out of Dutch language. I think that, I know that's a very sensitive question, but this is how it is.
Thank you, Prof. I'd just like to add that although our attention today is on the indigenous languages, of course, NFASA is an association for authors in all languages, all the languages of South Africa, official languages, and Afrikaans. You know, we don't exclude writers in Afrikaans from our membership at all. Writers in English, and of course, English is not an indigenous language, and most of our members do write in English. So it's our attention today is on the indigenous languages, but it's certainly not the only languages in which we encourage writing.
Thank you, Monica, for that comment, because we are open to all 11 official languages as NFASA. Colleagues, I don't see any further questions, and I don't know whether we should bring this meeting to an end, or do you want to add something, Winston or Monica?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I would have also liked, Monica, although we're talking about the copyright amendment bill in part, could you kindly also talk about advertise ourselves as NFASA about the grant scheme, please? Whilst we have members here, maybe some members don't know about NFASA's grant scheme.
Perhaps someone would like to say a few words about the grant scheme. Samu?
Thank you, Monica. Good morning, everyone. We are currently running the NFASA grant scheme for authors, which is a call for applications for authors who are in a process of writing a book or who are doing research towards writing their manuscript. So the call itself is for authors who are writing academic or general nonfiction writing. So it could be about anything. If you are writing a cookbook or you writing a biography or anything, or any non-fiction writing. So it could be about, it could be a travel book, it could be a book about a history of a town or your own community. So this is an opportunity for authors to get up to 30,000 towards their writing process if you want to take time off to finish writing your manuscript. So it becomes an opportunity to finish writing this manuscript and possibly getting published and contributing to the knowledge production in the country. If you need more information about this, applications are open. The closing date is the 6th of August. We've actually been running this call for about 2 months now. So it is an opportunity for authors to get this funding. The link to the application form is on our website, www.anfasa.org.za. Thank you.
Thank you, Samu.
Thank you.
Silence is golden, or silence is consent that we should bring this meeting to an end.
Thank you very much, Chair. We would like to thank you and Monica and Samu on this. And I know that you, Chair, you are the one who's got to do the final word. But I must say, I'm a bit disappointed with the Sesotho authors who did not turn up to this meeting, although they promised that they would be present. But probably next time will be next time. Let's not get tired about our good work. Thank you, Baba.
Siyabonga kakhulu. I see there are Seeber Writers Guild members who are present. Mhlambe khona eningakubeka noMpumelelo nawe Sihle.
Good morning, everyone. It's Nompumelelo Khumalo speaking. Though I joined the meeting very late because of network, but I would like to appreciate and first for hosting this kind of meeting. Yeah, because it's like these meetings are opening our eyes and our minds. Though I didn't get a lot because I joined the meeting late. Because of some reasons that I've already mentioned. But I would like to thank and
yes, there's a network problem. Yes, sir. Kubera baba.
I think that there are various network problems. Shall we just say that I'd like to say that we are very happy with that you have joined, whoever is on the line and can hear us. Thank you so much for joining, and please stay in touch with us. Go to our website, find out more about us, send us messages. Let's stay in contact.
okay, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. I think I'm not leaving anyone behind. Is there anyone who would like to say something before we close? Okay. Oh, Sihle says there are network glitches on his side. I'm sorry about that. But let me take this opportunity to thank Monica for presenting the issues that are at hand with regards to the CAP copyright amendment bill. And we want to take this opportunity to Monica well in the oral presentation on the 4th. And you must also know that you are speaking on the voices of all authors here in South Africa, and we wish you well. And we are grateful that you have prepared a submission which is clear and straight to the point, and you will be able to defend the point, the point of view of all authors. Thank you for all the attendees who attended today. We hope that we will call another meeting soon, maybe after the 4th of August. We'll call a meeting just to give you feedback on how it went. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you,
Thank
Prof.
you.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Be
you,
well.
Chair.
Stay
Thank you,
safe.
Chair.
Nika,
Bye-bye.
good luck with the
Thank you,
presentation. in
guys.
Cape
Goodbye.
Town.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Samu,
as
for
well.
organizing this. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Yes, bro. We made it.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. yes.
But you know, this is great because we are really putting ourselves on the map, on the South African map, as far as literature is concerned. You know.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and
Sinopila Mwango, are you from the Seeber as well? Can you unmute yourself? Hey, Mamsi.
Sir?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. yes.
Yeah, sir, I'm at work, so that is why I didn't speak. I was
Oh,
listening. Yes, I'm
oh,
at work.
but you are Seeber Writers Guild member.
Yes.
Oh, hayi siyabonga kakhulu, siyabonga ukuthi uphumelele. Bengilibona igama lakho, but I was not sure ukuthi wena ngempela usebenza kuphi?
Ngamanje ngise-Jozi, ngisebenzela e-Standard Bank head office.
Head office, okay. Siyabonga
Eh,
kakhulu. Siyabonga
siyabonga.
kakhulu, yes. And that I'm happy.
yes, Chair.
Yes.
No, thank you very much. Really, this is a good attempt, but it is successful. It is successful.
Oh, thank you very much. Siyabonga
Yeah,
kakhulu.
siyabonga, siyabonga. Ra leboha.
Okay.
You put the
Tata.
G. You put the
Tata.
G. Yeah, hahulu, 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 hahulu.
Oh, hahulu.
You speak in Setswana there, Tata.
Oh, Tata is okay. Okay.
Yeah, and you put the I hear that you put a G for H. Ya leboha.
Oh, okay.
Setswana says ya leboha.
Okay, and Sesotho?
Ke a leboha.
Ke a leboha haholo.
Ah, now you forget your studies now. But this is good. Really, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled about
No,
this.
It went very well, and thanks for your
Yeah.
support as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Enjoy the day.
Okay, you too, you too. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, siyabonga kakhulu, siyabonga.
Siyabonga, no problem.